Welcome back to Restoring Sean. We are in episode 7 today to open up the back entry, snoop around the pantry, and take a walk down the hallways. If you're new to the channel, I post a new video every Wednesday morning where I do some sort of somersault into the work that went into restoring my very first house, the Manor. All opinions are my own, never assume I have the correct answer, and did you know I had braces twice? And it's a true story. Let's get started. We are going to kick things off today with the back entry of the Manor. What's funny about these videos is as I start working on the things that I want to say, stories come to mind that are not pertinent to what I am trying to share today. But I still want to mention them even if I never fix them. Like here, for example, where the back door couldn't be closed fully because if it was, you couldn't latch the deadbolt properly. You do this weird partial thing where you'd close it all the way and then you'd have to pull it back a little bit and then you can engage it. And then when people would come over, if they were coming in behind me and they'd close the door, you'd watch them struggle for a second and then you'd have to say, oh, this is how you do it. Anyway, the back entry was an ugly little box when I moved in. I don't have a photo of the ceiling before painting it, but it was the same tangerine color as the walls. I am not much of a warm person, and if there is ever a color that I truly try to avoid using, it is an orange or a yellow. So that, coupled with the dirty electrical panel and the orangey tinted faux wood beadboard wall, I couldn't stand the energy that this little space was giving off. It was a great sized space though, truly, and I would be replacing the 2 slanted plywood shelves that had warped with new solid shelves, and then pushing my own agenda of what was cool at the time, the industrial pipe look, as the new coat rod, closet rod. I don't know. As with most spaces, the work here begins by painting the ceiling in a flat ceiling paint by Sherwin-Williams in pure white. And then in this room, following that up by painting the walls requisite gray by Sherwin-Williams in a matte finish. While I don't like using light gray paint anymore in my home, specifically for the walls, requisite gray is a really good choice for a gray because it's more of a warm gray in that it doesn't pull a bunch of blue once you've painted it on the walls. In this photo, you can see in the flooring that the wall was previously in a different position. I don't know why they moved it. On the other side of this wall is the pantry, and I feel it could be because possibly the pantry was used for something else at another point. But by moving it back, the previous owners made space for the hanging system and then the shelves up above it. Also note that the baseboards do not have decorative trim on top, which would be added later. I used primer on the beadboard and the electrical box at the same time. If you don't think you can paint these ugly boxes, you sure can. Just make sure you're not screwing around with the inside of the box because fires. But once it was all primed, I could paint the wall and the trim and the electrical box with pure white enamel paint by Sherwin-Williams. You can see in this very professional artist rendering how I was going to be adding shelves, but also check out that glow on the gray paint. It was perfection. I had purchased these pipes from Menards that I would be setting the new shelves on. Please note to the right that I neglected to sand down the old holes from the previous shelves, believing in my heart of hearts that the paint would cover it. It didn't. And here's a fun fact. I still try to get away with this even today. And here's another factoid for you. It still doesn't work. Here are some solid brand new wood shelves from Menards and a very cluttered stovetop, and I would be staining the wood the same gray that I had stained the counter for the built-in in the dining room. I then attached the shelves to the pipes, and instead of mounting brackets to the wall, I purchased a drapery rod from Pottery Barn that I could install to the underside of the shelves. It functions the exact same, and there's no reason you can't do this as long as your shelves are adequately supported. But here, you're left with a very clean, simple back door entry with folded scarves on the shelves, because why not? I also replaced the ceiling light in here, as well as the switches on the wall that controlled that light and the light for the back porch. The door was painted twice, once from its original poop brown color to the same iron ore that I had used in the kitchen, and then again to white because I wanted to brighten up the space. In hindsight, I wish I had left it dark gray to match the rest of the house. You can also see in this photo the extra lock I put on the doors downstairs because I was incredibly paranoid about intruders. And if I had to tell you about how many times I ripped that door open only to have it crash against that lock still engaged.
The limit does not exist.
And then finally, here's the only listing photo of the space. As understandably, most people don't care about a back entry. You can see the decorative trim added to the top of the baseboards here, as well as a mirror that I took from my old childhood bathroom in Appleton after we had replaced it. I have moved everywhere with this mirror, and currently it is hanging in the kitchen in this house. On the other side of the wall from the back entry was the pantry. Now, I don't know about you, but I had never had an actual pantry before that was more than just a tall standing cabinet in the kitchen. So this was really exciting to me. This is the most before of a photo that you're going to get, and lucky for you, it shows the sweet-ass curtain left behind that partitioned the pantry from the kitchen. This is also the only photo where, in the lower left, you can see the additional shelving unit that had been in the space, making it incredibly narrow. Like, no more than 2 feet between that shelving unit and the shelving unit opposite. But with the curtain gone and the smaller shelves out, this image showcases the humongous scale of the racks the crafty lesbians had built. Note that the upper right wasn't even attached. For obvious reasons from what you've seen from me already, I did not want this shelving because it was not my style. But also, it was just too big for the space and it was old and pretty beat up. Taking it down was really difficult because they had used several types of screws to jerry-rig it together. It was attached to the wall in weird spots. Nothing was, it wasn't like here and here, here and here. It was all over. There was this metal X brace across the back of it. And then it was just so gigantic that maneuvering it out and down was a nightmare. But eventually it was out. And what was interesting was the raw floor beneath it. You can see in this photo a couple of things. One is that there is a door latch from where a door used to exist on the trim there, but also the floor where there must have been some sort of original built-in cabinet. As this room was still the original plaster, I would kill to know what cabinet had been in there, what this space looked like when the house was built, but we're never gonna know. I temporarily put the shelving unit in here that I had from my previous living situation, and it would suffice for a few months until I could get around to refinishing the space. As usual, in addition to replacing the outlets and switches, there was the painting. Once again, for that clean look, I used requisite gray in here and then made a trip to Menards to purchase all of the shelving. While this look isn't my favorite, I wanted to be able to adjust my shelf heights as necessary because I just didn't want to be locked in on something, and I needed space to be able to store the trash and recycling underneath it. I should have had 3 of the vertical metal support things so that I could support the middle of the shelf, as it did end up sagging over time, because to save on cost, I went with particle board shelves. I know. In the spring of 2019, I painted the window as I painted everything else downstairs. A fun detail here that not all of the windows in the house still had was this vintage sort of lock, I guess. It had a little knob on it that when pulled toward you, stopped the window from opening enough for a person to climb through. And I always thought that that was neat. Also in this photo though, you can see the state of the backyard and garage, but that's for another day. With some privacy film now applied, this was how the pantry looked until 2020. I didn't do anything to the baseboards at the time, partly because I knew that I was going to be needing to do a lot of work to them since it was completely missing from the back wall. I would need the decorative trim, and I would also need quarter round where the baseboard met the floor. But the spring of 2020 did come, and with it, the time to finish the floors. This photo shows the finished trim with its primer on, and where I just washed the floors to start prepping for sanding. You can see that I added additional shelves to the inner wall of the pantry, initially to hold the coffee maker and such, but then to hold the larger microwave that I had purchased that I didn't want to set in the kitchen because it would absorb way too much counter space and I had practically none. And then the finished look was bright and clean, as intended, and well, there's this picture nabbed from a video before I moved out, and it sure looks like a pantry to me. Finally, in moving on to the hallways, we come to the reminder that I was terrible at taking before pictures, so we have this shot from the 2013 listing. Apart from replacing the ceiling light, this part of the house was about removing the shelving unit that occupied the nook. It had been cut in the back to wrap around the doorbell chime, and that made it really hard to hear the doorbell, so that also aided in my decision to remove it. Additionally, from a storage standpoint, the shelves were only about 6 inches deep, so there wasn't much that I was going to be able to keep in there of my things. When I took down the top cabinet, which was attached very firmly to the wall and the base cabinet beneath it, I uncovered what was probably the worst color in the house. It wasn't hot pink, it wasn't salmon, it was some weird variation in between that looked like a coral that would belong more in a Miami beach house in the 1980s. Pay no mind to my hooter here. You can see in this photo that when the cabinets were added, they also cut into the trim to make it work in the space. I wouldn't fix that until 2020, just like the pantry, because I didn't want to. There was also a plywood floor here, and I have no idea what happened to the original floorboards or why they would take them out. The stark contrast of that gray against the color of these walls is just hilarious to me because it was so damn bright and glaring. I couldn't fathom why it was the choice at whatever point in time. But then we have a nice calm color here, and it looks clean and intentional. For this space, I wanted it to be hooks rather than a rod, so I purchased some wood and stained it the same gray as everywhere else. Attaching these brass hooks, I probably paid like $1 each for at Menards. I wish I had painted that doorbell chime box, but that's hindsight. And then here's an example of caulking hard at work. This is when I was painting the majority of the trim downstairs and caulking everything everywhere. Could I have left it as it was? Sure, if I didn't care about class at all. And then finally, when all was said and done, I added more pipe fittings like the ones in the back entry, a couple more shelves stained gray, and we had a completed functional hallway nook. And now let's go upstairs. For my last gripe in this video, but not all videos, about not taking before shots, here are a couple that I yoinked from my walkthrough video of when I first bought the house. It was very orange and brown, and this is also the only proof I have that the bathroom door swung out into the hallway rather than into the bathroom. It's not like it's the weirdest thing in the world, but it just felt odd because, one, if you had the door open all the way against the wall, that was fine. It wasn't in the way. But usually the door was like part way open, so you had to kind of scoot around it. So it just made more sense. The bathroom was large enough to accommodate it swinging in that way. So that's what it was going to be. Here we go. Bunch of stuff in this photo. With a very nice flat white ceiling, the hallway is also now painted, surprise, requisite gray. There is a brand new can light where nothing had existed before, and this mirrored the can light at the top of the stairs that had replaced the old boob light that was there. Also, the doors are primed white, and on the right, you can see the continued issue of the gap problem on the door trim between it and the new sheetrock. This was before I had decided on a color for all the doors in the house, as I thought they should be white to match the trim. As stated in the kitchen video, I decided to use the same paint I had painted all of the kitchen cabinets, Sherwin-Williams Emerald Collection enamel paint in iron ore. Having the door swing inward just made so much more sense. My dad was able to achieve this for me when he came out to help with bathroom projects that we will cover in the bathroom video in a couple weeks. This photo is the careful taping process before I started painting the trim. As I've said before, I used blue masking tape because I thought that's just what was best. But since then, I only use the green frog tape brand because you do get a much cleaner line. Working on the doors and trim also meant cleaning up all of the original hardware. I learned from watching Nicole Curtis on Rehab Addict that to clean old paint and general crap off of vintage hardware, you can just toss it in a crock pot of plain water and let it cook on low heat overnight. What I didn't know at the time was that this would destroy my crock pot, as the rust and mineral deposits that cooked off would permanently stain the pot itself. This is how we learn. After a little bit of gentle scrubbing with a brush, all of the paint and doo-doo comes right off, and you're left with some really cool looking pieces that I assume were copper, but I'm only guessing on that from the color. I probably should have polished them further after going through this process because it removed all of the oil from them as well, and polishing them would end up being a protector, but I didn't do that, and I would love to know how they have held up in the, 4 or 5 years since I did this. But this was how it looked when installed against the iron ore paint, and I was very much a fan of it. I'm okay on it now, but I was a much bigger fan at the time. With the door handles installed and the trim just about done being painted, I moved to caulking the cracks and finishing it all up. Since shelving wouldn't fit at the end of the hallway, I hung a simple gallery wall to fill the space, and it worked fine for me. Quick note though on gallery walls, and it's that usually more is more. 2 frames, I don't really count that as a gallery wall. So for me, it's always 3 or more. And they've got to take up space, whether that's the space of the image itself or the space of the matting that's around the image. The point of a gallery wall is to break up your wall space because you don't want to showcase the blank canvas of the paint color that you chose. And then finally, we have the final shots. These floors were stained as well in the spring of 2020, about a month before any COVID stuff happened, because I started that entire project upstairs. The part of the wall that juts out on the left there, that was the continuation of the chimney from down in the kitchen. Again, with hindsight in mind, I wish that I had ground down the cement that was wrapped around the chimney so that I could expose all of the brickwork, but this is now and that was then, and admittedly, I was pretty dumb. I still am. That is what I have got for you today, though. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch these videos, and if you would be so kind for liking them and subscribing to them as well. It not only helps me, but it helps you in ways I just can't describe. I will see you all again next week, Wednesday, with episode 8 of Restoring Sean, when we go through the fun process of making over the foyer and the miserable process of what it took to make over the stairwell. Be kind, make good choices, and I will see you then.